All right, everybody, and we are here with Baseball Llama, my co-author from the Fantasy Baseball Almanac and Draft Guide. Just a reminder, as I always do with these videos, it's available on Amazon.com. You can see it in the show notes below. Why are we good? First of all, we're less expensive than the competitors. Secondly, we don't make you pay for in-season advice. Once you buy the book, you have it. We get a promo code in there. Third, we're really good. A lot of our readers, the vast majority of our readers made playoffs last year, but a lot of our readers actually won their league. And it becomes, it's not only about winning draft day, of course, it's about winning the regular season as well, which we offer that in-season service. So check that out. Check out the reviews. They're real stuff, and we're very proud of it. But today we're talking about NL West. Specifically in this video, we are talking about the Arizona Diamondbacks. So Eric, why don't you just, or let me just prime you, right? So Diamondbacks, I think offensively they have some interesting weapons. You got Marte, Escobar. They added Bumgarner in the offseason, defensively or via pitcher if you prefer. You got Luke Weaver. You got some interesting pieces there. But what do you think about the Arizona Cardinals this year? Arizona Diamondbacks this year. My football brain going like crazy. What excites you about this team?
Actually, it's the two Martes they have now. But I think they're going to score a lot of runs. I like what they did. They actually kind of pulled off a successful form of not quite rebuilding, but still getting rid of some expensive veterans and using it to get other pieces. So I like what they've built here. The rotation is the only question I have. They added Bumgarner, but is he going to be what he used to be or kind of what he has been for the last couple of years for the Giants, which is an okay mid-rotation type guy, which I think is where he is outside of just being a leader. I think Luke Weaver will step up as probably their best pitcher for the year. I like him a lot. And Robbie Ray is a guy I've never been high on.
Right. And that's the polarizing guy, I think, on this team. Everybody, he always seems, at least, compared to you and where we put him in our book, he always seems to be hyped a little bit more, maybe because of that kind of God-given ability and maybe, some stories of him before he made the show. But, you're a little bit down on him usually. Can you talk a little bit more about why you're, and again, not down on him as a player, but we're talking about fantasy baseball here specifically. Why don't you love him as much as the rest of the fantasy world does?
He's got a lot of strikeouts, but he hasn't been able to keep the base runners off. A lot of walks, a lot of just, he can't really direct where that heater is going. So to me, while you've got a lot of strikeouts, he kind of balances it out with everything else. He had one good year a couple of years ago, and everyone kind of jumped on that bandwagon and dubbed him an ace. And I keep seeing, this team needs to trade for an ace. They ought to look at Ray. He's never been an ace outside of one good year, and he's yet to prove that wasn't the outlier. So for me right now, 2017 is the blip on the radar, not everything else. He's kind of erratic, and I have trouble putting a high pick into somebody that is that hard to predict and that all over the place, really.
Yeah, and I'm looking at his numbers here. So, again, in the guide, we kind of show at this point, we're building essentially a 3-year repository, but this year we have 2 years published, 12 wins, 8 losses in 2019, 4.34 ERA, 174.1 innings pitched, 2.4 WAR. I guess it's good that it's not in the negatives. To your point, Eric, a lot of strikeouts, 235, a lot of home runs given up as well, earned runs 84. So, yeah, definitely not probably top line ace. In our draft guide, we tier our rankings, right? So it's pretty simplified. You pick all the people from tier 1. Once they're all gone, you drop down to tier 2, and we give you a little bit of strategy inside of that too, when to go with different positions. But Robbie Ray's down there a little bit. But Bumgarner is an interesting one to me as well. I think the Giants have been kind of descending into the cellar as of lately. So maybe like a fresh team will give him a little bit of a pep in his step. But is he a top line ace? I don't know. Certainly serviceable though for your fantasy team. And Luke Weaver, can you talk about him a little bit? You think he's going to be, ascend, maybe not as high as Bumgarner, but you think he's going to take a step forward? Can you talk about him a little bit?
Yeah, look, he's the injury history is kind of what's showing a little bit. He missed some time last year, but when he pitched, last year he was excellent. He was outstanding. ERA below 3. He only made it for 12 starts, it looks like, but decent strikeouts and kept the ball, in the ballpark pretty well. And just, he should be able to put together just another really, really good year. He's kind of entering that prime where these guys really figure it out as pitchers. And I like a lot of what he's got to offer here. I think he'd be a really good mid to late round steal for a lot of teams because he's still not on the radar for quite a few people.
Sure, and let's swing it over offensively a little bit. So you mentioned the Martes, right? You got Cattell, you got Starling. So talk about these guys. What do you like about them? And I can tell you that Cattell is actually higher. We have him as a tier 2 person in our rankings. Starling is tier 3, a couple tier 3s. We also have Escobar, I believe, in tier 3 as well. But can you talk about middle infield? Seems pretty solid for Arizona, at least offensively speaking. And then the batters in general.
Yeah, I mean overall the offense should be excellent. The only real spot I'd say there's maybe two guys on this offense that I wouldn't recommend drafting, and that's just Nick Ahmed because he's more known for his defense and he'll bring a little offense here and there, but he's not the type of guy, especially at a shortstop position, that's well stocked that you want to really waste a draft pick on. And Cole Calhoun, who's going to give you some decent home runs, 25 to 30 probably, but strikes out a ton. Everyone else really is fair game. Starling Marte, I should say, should have a better year here than he did in Pittsburgh, which you're looking at a more hitter-friendly park, which should really help his numbers a bit. And that kind of goes back to what you were saying about transitioning to Bumgarner. Mm-hmm. He's going from a huge park in San Francisco to a much more hitter-friendly park here, so that might hinder his value as well. But yeah, I mean, Cattell Marte, is he going to quite be exactly what he's last year? He might take a slight step back, but he's still going to be a very, very good player. Carson Kelly, I think, takes another step forward at catcher and is going to add, could be a nice little value later in the draft.
I was going to ask about him. Yeah, I mean, at a position where you have a couple of top line guys and then it falls off steeply. He seems like a guy that we have him as a tier 4, so that's pretty decent for a catcher in terms of where we rank him at strategically and everything. So he seems like a guy that you might be able to get and catch some other people in your league sleeping a little bit. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, because a lot of guys are going to jump, especially when they see the top guys like Realmuto and Grandal and Wilson Contreras flying off the board. People might panic and say, "Oh God, I got to jump on Salvador Perez or whatever."
Right.
Let him. You still got Will Smith, you got Carson Kelly, you got guys like this that are going to be around in the mid to late rounds, and just grab somewhere else. Catcher, once you drop off those 2-3 guys. It is as you said.
They're replaceable, right? And we were talking about this earlier today. So next year, I'm not going to even go into it, other than just give you a little teaser. So next year, we're actually piloting some enhanced analytics this season, and I'm actually using my team as a guinea pig because I believe in them. But we don't post these things until they're vetted with a couple of years of data. So I believe in the stats. We'll see where it goes, but. What you and I were talking about, I guess, at a higher level, the 30,000-foot view is the replaceability of a player, especially when you're in your draft. So you just mentioned you get your top 3 guys, and what ends up happening in fantasy leagues, and I play a lot of fantasy football. That's kind of my bread and butter here, right? And Eric is much better at fantasy baseball than I am. That's why we make a good partnership. But what I always argue is if you can start the run on a particular position, that's fine, but don't get caught in that run. What I mean by that is, okay, the first 3 catchers are gone this year, and then there's a steep drop-off, and maybe the difference between catchers ranked number 4 through 15 isn't that stark. Well, that doesn't mean you need to jump on the 4th catcher on your board. Just let the draft happen, go to another position, fill that, get better competitive advantage for your team, then come back and fill in that catcher like you mentioned. Like maybe Will Smith is sitting there. Maybe, and when those runs happen, you notice that, a lot of people, in my opinion, are not prepared. And so that's what this draft guide, honestly, is all about. We do a pretty good job, in my opinion. I guess in my biased opinion, we do a better job of preparing you tactically to win draft day. And then it's all about what can we do? What kind of players do we need to add in the season? Which guys are going to be called up, in summer, which guys are going to be called up late spring, and figure it out there. But anyway, Eric, let's get on to I guess the team itself, not fantasy. Arizona Diamondbacks, because I always tell people in my podcast and everything, you're fantastic when it comes to futures, right? What do you think the high level and what do you think the low level is in terms of games or where they're going to finish in the division? Do you think it's possible they compete for a wild card this year? How do you feel about this team?
Yeah, I think their ceiling would be in the wild card, taking one of those wild card spots. I don't quite see them being able to take over the Dodgers. That's just
come on,
and that's not Diamondbacks at all. That's just barring some major injuries to the Dodgers that are just crippling. They're crazy. So yeah, no, for the Diamondbacks, I think a playoffs, spot is definitely in the cards. And I go as far as to say I think they're in my top 10 in the MLB power rankings there, right at the bottom, that we were discussing going into. And
Sure.
I like a lot of what they're going to do. They're just going to score some runs. They should be able to pitch. They may not have, that ace rotation like the Nationals might, but they're going to score a lot of runs. And they've got some pitchers who can keep you in the games. They've got Mike Leake, who I would never recommend drafting, but he's going to keep you in the game. He's not going to be a gamer. He's not going to be great, but he's going to be right there, and he's going to keep them in it to where they can score and maybe win a game 8-6.
Sure.
So yeah, I like the team a lot. I think there's a lot going for them, and I think they're on the up here.
Very good. Well, that kind of wraps up the Arizona Diamondbacks portion of the segment. Once again, everybody, Eric and I co-write the Fantasy Baseball Almanac and Draft Guide. And when you sign up for those in-season updates, literally they come to us. We both monitor an email, and you basically get a direct line into us the way that our service works today. So we don't make you pay for it or anything like that. You buy the book, you get the promo code. It's that easy. So once again, just check out the links in the show notes below. Check out the reviews. We're very proud of what we've done, and we stand by, especially those comments and everything. So check it out. Eric, we'll catch you on another episode. Thanks for joining us for this one today, and good luck to the Arizona Diamondbacks this year.